I'm not coming back. I've found someone better, and I've put your things in storage. My name is Adrian Vale, and I am 45 years old. At 11:42 p.m. on Thursday night, I was looking at my phone in the kitchen of our apartment in Savannah. My wife, Selena, should have been on her 4th day of vacation with her girlfriends in Palm Springs. There was a screenshot next to the message. $118,000 had been transferred from our joint account to her personal account. I put the phone down on the table and finished my coffee. A 15-year marriage had ended with 2 sentences and a screenshot. There had been signs for months: extended weekend getaways, new clothes she never wore around me, phone calls that abruptly ended when I entered the room. I built my entire career on recognizing patterns and catching fraud before it grew. There were warning signs in every case that came my way. But in my own home, I turned a blind eye to them. It wasn't that I didn't see them. It was that accepting the truth meant accepting that the marriage was already over. Perhaps I had fallen into the sunk cost fallacy. I had noticed them all. I'm a corporate risk consultant, spotting contradictions is my job. But I stayed silent. Maybe that was my first mistake. Or maybe my first mistake was marrying someone who saw my career as nothing but boring spreadsheets and numbers. I opened my laptop and checked an email account Selena didn't know about. There were 3 notifications from my bank's security system. Attempts had been made to change the passwords of accounts Selena didn't know about. She was working meticulously. I had to respect that. I picked up the phone and typed 2 words: good luck. Then I called my brother Marcus. Do you remember that emergency plan we discussed 5 years ago? I asked. Yes. The time has come. I hung up the phone and looked at the wedding photo on the wall. It was the only photo of the 2 of us together in the house. I should have noticed that too. I met Selena Marlowe at an event at the University of Georgia. I was 38 years old, my first short-lived marriage had just ended, and I was fully focused on my consulting work. Selena was 34, lively, ambitious, but completely uninterested in what I did. I don't need to know the details, she would often say. Just make enough to live comfortably. We got married after a year. I helped her open a wellness studio, funding it entirely from my own savings. When she wanted a bigger house, I agreed. When she wanted luxury cars and expensive vacations, I nodded and signed the checks. One day, while repairing the porch with my father, he warned me. Holding the hammer, he spoke carefully. Son, I've noticed your wife is spending your money too freely. Just make sure you value what you earn. I brushed it off, but his words stuck with me. In the 6th year of our marriage, I quietly began restructuring my assets. It wasn't illegal, it was just a precautionary measure. I set up companies, created trusts, invested in cryptocurrency, and opened offshore accounts for international clients. Selena only knew about our joint accounts. She had no idea about anything else. I watched her become more involved in fitness influencer circles. Her Instagram followers reached the thousands. She started taking trips that first covered weekends, then the entire week. You'd get bored, she'd say. All that yoga talk and detox drinks. Last Christmas, she forgot my birthday. The next day, she bought me an expensive watch. I was so busy with the studio expansion, he said. I accepted the watch. But that night, I finalized the documents for my emergency plan. All the signs were there. I just didn't want to see the whole truth. The next morning, I made my coffee as usual. My world had crumbled, but habits are hard to break. I logged into the system and activated the emergency protocol Marcus and I had designed years ago. I froze the joint accounts and cards. I flagged the $118,000 transfer as fraudulent. I sent the documents to my lawyer and asked him to file for divorce. Then I called my mother. Selena left me. She took our money and moved my belongings. I'm sorry, Adrian, my mother said. But I'm not surprised. What will you do? What I've been preparing for years. I'll protect myself. An hour later, my phone rang. It was Selena. I didn't answer. She called 10 more times. Then a message came. What did you do? The money's gone, my cards aren't working. I didn't respond. I went to the storage unit she had sent me to. I took 2 boxes of my clothes and my laptop. But my family photos, my books, the mementos from my father, they were gone. Something changed inside me at that moment. It wasn't just about the money. It was about trying to erase me from my own life. I sat down in a cafe and opened my laptop. I used financial databases available to licensed researchers. I found everything I could about Elias Cross, Selena's fitness coach, whom she had been sharing for months. My suspicions were correct. Elias' business was in debt. 3 maxed out credit cards, unpaid rent, and a car loan that Selena had co-signed for 2 months ago. I closed my laptop and returned to the hotel. For the first time in years, my mind was clear. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. On Monday morning, I walked into the office. My assistant was surprised. Adrian, I thought you took the day off. Selena called 3 times. She did? I said. She was very worried. There was a mistake in the accounts, and she needed to reach you. If she calls again, refer her to my lawyer. By noon, she showed up in person. The receptionist called. Your wife is here, she's very insistent. I sighed and went down to the lobby. Selena was waiting, wearing her trademark sunglasses in her hair and perfectly coordinated sportswear. On her face was that "get what you want" smile she'd been using for 15 years. Adrian, there's been a major misunderstanding with the bank, she said loudly. All our accounts have been frozen. It's not a misunderstanding, I said quietly. You made an unauthorized money transfer. The bank flagged it as fraud. Her smile froze. It was a joint account. I'm your wife. You're the one who drained our savings and left me to live with someone else. You'll soon be my ex-wife. That's the definition of financial fraud. His voice dropped to a whisper. You can't do this to me. I put down a deposit for a new house. I have commitments to Elias. I know about everything. Her face turned pale. Are you investigating me? No. I'm just protecting myself. That afternoon, I met with my lawyer, Clara Jennings, at her office in Atlanta. I want to move quickly, I said, laying everything we had found on the table. She carefully reviewed the documents, tapping her pen on the table. Well, file an emergency asset preservation order today, she said. Even credit fraud alone is enough to freeze everything until the divorce is finalized. That afternoon, I went to CrossFit Elite, Elias Gym. The place was modern and stylish, with motivational quotes on the walls and posters of Elias' tanned face at the entrance. Inside, young people in expensive workout gear were taking selfies between half-finished sets. Elias noticed me immediately. He was actually taller in person, with artificial tan and veneer teeth, the typical look of a man who had built his career entirely on appearance. He came over to me, extended his hand, and put on a perfectly calibrated smile. You must be Adrian, he said. Selena mentioned you. Of course she did, I said, without shaking his hand. We need to talk. Privately. His smile faded, but he led me to his office. It was a glass-walled room, visible to everyone but soundproof. What can I do for you? He asked as he closed the door. I placed a file on his desk. These are all the financial documents linking you to Selena. Loans, credit cards, leases, all signed using our marital assets as collateral. He took the file cautiously. I don't understand. It's simple. Selena secured your business loans using our marriage as collateral. Now we're divorcing, and those guarantees are invalid." As he turned the pages, his face paled. "These are the legal business agreements between Selena and me." "Perhaps so. But the banks approved them based on our joint income and assets she no longer has access to." He closed the file. "What do you want?" "Nothing from you. I just wanted you to be aware of what's ahead. The banks will be calling in these loans very soon." Elias' jaw tightened. "Selena said you're rich. Money isn't an issue for you." "Money has never been the issue," I said. "The issue is trust." I headed toward the door but stopped before leaving. "One more thing. When Selena moved out, she took items of sentimental value to me. Family photos. My father's watch. Things that can't be replaced with money." He stared at me in silence for a long time. "I'll do what I can." The next day, a box arrived from a courier. Inside were my lost photos, my father's watch, and other personal items. There was no note. Later that afternoon, Clara informed me that the emergency asset protection order had been approved. All joint assets would be frozen until the divorce was finalized. I logged into my financial management system and reviewed the alerts. Selena had attempted to access the frozen account 17 times in the past 24 hours. She had also tried to open a new loan using our home as collateral. It had been denied. My phone lit up again with her name. This time I answered. "What did you do?" she said, her voice trembling. "The bank called in all of Elias' loans. They'll seize the equipment tomorrow. I'm sorry, but luckily lifting weights will take care of it. This is revenge, Adrian. You're destroying him just to hurt me. I'm not doing anything to him. I'm just protecting myself from fraud. You used our marriage, without my knowledge or consent, to secure his loans. That's illegal. We can work this out," he said, his voice suddenly softening. "Come home, let's talk." After 15 years of marriage, he still thought he could manipulate me that easily. "There's nothing to resolve," I said. "The divorce will proceed. The fraud investigation will continue. And Elias will learn the hard way the cost of being careless." I hung up the phone and blocked his number. That night, I slept more peacefully than I had in months. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in a meeting room for a court-ordered mediation session. Selena and her lawyer walked in. She looked tired. Her fancy clothes and perfect makeup couldn't hide the tension on her face. Her lawyer spoke first. "My client is willing to be reasonable about property division, despite the aggressive tactics used so far." My lawyer, Clara, smiled politely. "That's good to hear. Because there has been progress." She slid a document across the table. "The bank has completed its fraud investigation. They found that Selena forged Adrian's signature on numerous loan documents and used marital assets as collateral without his knowledge." Selena's lawyer quickly reviewed the document, his face turning pale. "We need time to review this." "Of course," said Clara. "But I want you to know that the bank has already referred the matter to the prosecutor's office. This meeting is a courtesy offered to you before a criminal case is filed." Selena looked at me with wide eyes. "A criminal case? Adrian, you can't be serious." I met her gaze firmly. "I'm not the one filing the case. The bank is. If you commit fraud in a loan, this is what happens." Her lawyer whispered something in her ear. Selena shook her head vigorously. "If Mrs. Marlowe agrees to sign the settlement we propose today," Clara continued, "Adrian is prepared to give a statement to the bank that could mitigate the legal consequences. He will also not file a complaint regarding the theft of personal belongings or unauthorized transfers from the joint account." I watched as the world Selena had carefully built crumbled before my eyes. What she expected was anger, jealousy, perhaps even begging. What she didn't expect were the consequences. The agreement is generous, I said quietly. The yoga studio stays with you, it was always profitable. You keep your car and personal belongings. You don't receive alimony. And you take responsibility for all the debts you incurred in my name. What about Elias? She asked, her voice barely audible. Mr. Cross' financial issues are his own concern, Clara replied firmly. But since your husband's assets don't back those loans, we know the bank has started foreclosure proceedings. Selina signed the documents without objection. As we left the meeting, she grabbed my arm. I never thought you'd fight like this, she whispered. You always just went along with everything. That was my choice, I said. I didn't have to fight. Just like this is your choice. I turned and walked away without looking back. A month later, I checked out of the hotel and moved into a small house near downtown Cedar Falls. It wasn't fancy, just a sturdy wooden house that needed a little renovation. A project to keep my hands busy and my mind occupied in the evenings. I heard from mutual friends that Selina had moved to Colorado for a fresh start. Her Instagram was filled with inspiring quotes about mountain views and new beginnings, along with messages of transformation, like, "I'm proud of the woman I've become." Elias' gym had been sold to a national chain. Had moved to Miami to grow his brand. Neither of them ever really talked about what had happened. People don't usually talk about their failures. You know, fake Instagram lives. One Saturday, my brother Jason dropped by to help me install new cabinets in the kitchen. Have you heard from Selina? He asked while measuring the hinges. No, I said. And am not expecting to. You know, Jason said carefully, you could have completely destroyed her. The fraud charges alone would have been enough. I shrugged. What would be the point? It's not my problem anymore. We worked in silence for a while. Measuring, cutting, and assembling created a rhythmic calm. I'm thinking of taking a break, I said finally. Maybe you'll go to Minnesota. Catch some fish at the cabin. Dad would have wanted that, Jason said softly. You haven't been there since he passed away. That evening, after Jason left, I sat on the back porch with a glass of bourbon. The neighborhood was quiet, with only the occasional bark of a dog or the laughter of a child. It was very different from the upscale neighborhood Selina had insisted on. Somehow more real. I thought about the past 15 years, how I had allowed someone else to define my life, my worth. How I had noticed the signs but chosen to ignore them. And how I was ready when that moment came. Because a part of me had always known that this day would come. I didn't feel like I had one. I didn't feel like I was right. I just felt free. For 15 years I measured life in balances and ledgers. But maybe freedom isn't about numbers at all. Maybe it's about mornings without alarms, coffee that doesn't have to be rushed, the sound of hammer against wood, or the quiet drive to a fishing cabin no one else cares about. For the first time in years, my future felt like mine and mine alone. The next morning, I called the office and said I'd be taking 2 weeks off. Then I packed my truck, locked the house, and headed north. There was no plan, no expectation. Just an open road. And for the first time in years, there was no invisible ledger I needed to balance.